Numbers chapter 22, 23, 24. It's one section of scripture. It's Balaam, who was called a prophet, but he ended up becoming a picture of a false prophet or teacher, or a teacher or prophet who backslid and fell into error. Anyway, Balaam we know the story well because his donkey spoke to him. So we know that children's church story of Balaam and the donkey. But it's a very dramatic story where the Lord spoke to him and gave him 7 prophetic words for countries in the Middle East, right around Israel. And these prophecies had some fulfillment in ancient history, but they have a more complete fulfillment in the generation the Lord returns. These 7 prophetic oracles in Numbers 23 and 24, and then the introductory story in Numbers 22, really lays it out. Now, Balaam is a picture. It's useful. His life and ministry is useful to us because he gives these 7 prophetic oracles that are very helpful for where God's purposes are going in the future. Number 2, Balaam, his life story gives us insight into how serious it is. And there's some verses that are right there in context. How serious and dangerous it is to curse or denounce God's purpose for Israel. Because Balaam did it and he paid the price, and some others paid the price with him. It's a very serious object lesson, more than an object lesson. But thirdly, Balaam is a picture of what seemingly is a sincere prophetic or teaching ministry that got seduced by riches and money and greed. And it says they forsook the way, and they went the way of Balaam. In other words, he had compromises because he had financial gain in sight. So he became comfortable with compromises. So the story is the 7 prophetic words, then the message about you've got to stand for Israel. You can't denounce or curse Israel because there's consequences. You can see it in his life and the nations that he was relating to. And then you see him as a picture of a good ministry who went bad. And the 3 New Testament passages talk about, as a warning, the way of Balaam, the error of Balaam, and the doctrine of Balaam. Those are 3 passages in Peter, Jude, and in the book of Revelation. So that's Numbers chapter 22, 23, 24. The prophet Balaam, who became a sorcerer and is a tremendous object lesson for the church in this hour.